That's where you miss the point, because, in fact, you know, this subject of money comes up, but you've got the wrong issue there. The subject of money is, where's it going? You see, another part that isn't in that piece, the money in Scientology isn't going to me. It's not going to my colleagues. That's a fact. That's a fact. You can call up the IRS and find that fact out. They've audited our records and seen all of that, and none of that money is going anywhere. As a matter of fact, the officials in the church are paid far less and live far more frugal existences than any other church leader. Our money goes to social causes that we accept. You take these people, we are the largest social reform group in the world, do far more than any other church. For the last 2 years, we've been voted the Community Outreach Group of the Year in Los Angeles.
By whom?
By the local city council. The Senate of California passed a resolution that's for our work with underprivileged children in California. We work on getting drug addicts off drugs. We support Narconon, which is Drug Rehabilitation Center, using the drug rehabilitation technology of L. Ron Hubbard. There are 33 centers around the world. Over 100,000 people have been gotten off drugs. We sponsor educational programs. Several years ago, in just one instance, we worked with...
I don't want to minimize any of that, but how does that make your group, how did you put it, that you do more to help...
Social reform.
Social reform, sure, than any other group in the world? More than the Catholic Church?
More accurately is per size. And when you put it in that rate, in other words, how big Scientology is compared to any others, the amount that we do on that subject, there's not even anybody comparable.
Okay, we've got to take a break. We'll continue our discussion with David Miscavige in a moment.
Conversation with David Miscavige now continues. Here again, Ted Koppel.
During one of Forrest Sawyer's pieces a moment ago, we heard one of your colleagues talking about psychiatry, right?
Right.
You guys are death on psychiatry. The criticism that was made was that this is foreign to the United States. He referred to its origins in Nazism and communism, and that your religion, Scientology, is an American religion. Fair enough? So
well,
far?
American of the mind. Yeah,
right.
That's right.
Well, what does that do for Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, all the other isms that also did not originate in this country?
Well, no, that isn't really the point. The point there is this, that those people, the fascists, the communists, have used psychiatry to further their ends. That's just a fact. I mean, you want to look at the studies that brought about the Holocaust of the Jews, that the Nazis justified killing the Jews. They were done at the Max Planck Institute of Psychiatry in Leipzig, Germany, and that justified the killing of 6 million people. If you look at the report that even Forrest Sawyer did on the mental institutions in Russia, several months ago he did this, you saw that that was a tool of the state. That's the point he's making there. But let me tell you what our real problem is. Number one, understand this. Psychiatry, psychology, that comes from the word psyche. Psyche means soul. These people have preempted the field of religion, not just Scientology, every other religion. They right now practice and preach the fact that man is an animal. And I guess that is where, philosophically, we're at odds with them. But to understand what this war is, this is not something that we started. In fact, 22 days after Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health came out, the attacks from the American Psychiatric Association started. This was the first popular book on the mind ever in existence. It was running up the bestseller list. It was popular with the people. I have the letter sent out by the man who was in the American Psychiatric Association asking for ad hominem reviews on the subject of Dianetics. These people absolutely felt that we were cutting across their vested interests. And the lengths with which they have gone to destroy Scientology and Dianetics and L. Ron Hubbard is absolutely mind-boggling. They attempted to do so through the 1950s. First, they tried to attack L. Ron Hubbard's credibility. Then they recruited the American Medical Association and the Food and Drug Administration, and they then proceeded to infiltrate our organization.
Let me finish. May I stop you just for a moment? Because, you know, when you talk about undermining L. Ron Hubbard's credibility, and again, I have no idea whether that video and the tape that we
but why don't we touch on
that we heard was representative of L. Ron Hubbard. But when I hear about a man talking about having been taken out to the Van Allen space radiation belt, of spaceships that were essentially the same thing as the DC-8. I got to tell you, I mean, if we're talking about this man's credibility, that certainly raises some questions in my mind about his credibility.
Okay, well, let me ask you, have you read any books on Dianetics or Scientology?
I've been reading little else over the last few days. I must confess, I'm not a student.
But you haven't read Dianetics or any books on Scientology?
You're absolutely right.
Okay, fine. Then that's why you would make a comment like that. I mean, let's not joke around here. That bit that Forrest did there pulled out of context items. And let's not forget something else, by the way. I told Forrest Sawyer, and I was open about this the whole time. I have been in communication with Nightline numerous times. I said, Forrest, something comes up, you want to bring me up an allegation, you confront me with it before this so I can do away with this garbage and not have to do it on the program. Dave, I promise you I'll do it. Numerous calls have been put into him. I have never heard it from him. I never heard about these. To do that, it's take anything out of context. Ted, let me just give you an analogy. Let me give you an analogy.
You know that there are going to be a lot of folks out there, and I'm sure there are a lot of Scientologists, and I don't want to offend anyone who truly believes this, but there are a lot of people out there who look at that. You say it was taken out of context. Take a minute, if you would, and see if you can put it into context for us so that it does not sound ridiculous, because quite frankly, the way it sounded there, it sounded ridiculous.
Okay, well, let me ask you to do this then. I want you to take the Catholic Church and take right now and explain to me, to make sense, that the Virgin Mary was a virgin. Scientifically impossible, unless we're talking about something, okay, I'll be like you, I'll be the cynic. If we're talking about artificial insemination, how could that be? You're talking about going out to heaven, except we have the space shuttle going out there. We have the Apollo going out there. You do that. I'm not here to wait. I'm not here to talk. I'm not here to talk.
Let me do it. And you were a Catholic as a child, right?
Yeah.
So you know full well that those issues are questions of faith. Are you telling me that what we have heard L. Ron Hubbard say on this broadcast this evening, that they, to Scientologists, are issues of faith? If that's what you tell me, then that's fine.
No, as a matter of fact, what I'm telling you, you talk about the Van Allen belt or whatever, is that forms no part of current Scientology. None whatsoever.
But what did he mean when he was talking about it?
Well, you know, quite frankly, this tape here, he's talking about the origins of the universe, and I think you're going to find that in any religion. And I think you can make the same mockery of it. I think it's offensive that you're doing it here, because I don't think you're doing it somewhere else.
I'm not mocking it. I'm asking you a question. And you know, you turn it around and ask me about Catholicism. I say we're talking about
Well, it's not even a matter of faith, because Scientology is about you, yourself, and what you do. You're bringing up something that isn't part of current Scientology, that isn't something that Scientologists study, that is part of some tape taken from I have no idea, and asking me about it and asking me to put it in context. That I can't do.
So this has nothing to do with your faith
If you read any books on science, no. Van Allen Bell, absolutely not. Nothing.
Okay. We're going to continue our discussion in just a moment. And we're back once again with David Miscavige. I'm going to let you get to the point you want to get to, but I was astonished during the break you told me you had never heard that tape before.
No, I've never heard that tape.
L. Ron Hubbard tape.
No, I'm not. I mean, it may exist there, but I haven't heard it. I mean, I don't know if you understand. There are 6,000 lectures by Mr. Hubbard. There are over 20 million words of printed words in Scientology. And all of these have been made available in Scientology. So if it is there, well, fine. Then I don't think anything's being hidden either. I just personally haven't heard that tape. Okay. No.
Now, you wanted to get back to the issue of the psychiatrist. Yes. And let me, if I may, by way of introduction to that, I did not interrupt you before, but you were talking about the use of psychiatry in Nazi Germany, the use of psychiatry in the Soviet Union.
Yes.
I would argue, and I think most psychiatrists in this country would argue, that what we're talking about here was the misuse of psychiatry in both those countries.
Well, okay. And if we're talking about the misuse, fine. In any event, I think any use that ends up killing people is a misuse, and I think that's a hell of a record to have. But let me get back to where it was, because it does tie in. You say the misuse, but I don't know if you're aware that there was a plan in 1955 in this country, Ted, to repeat what was done in Russia. There was going to be a Siberia, USA set up on 1 million acres in Alaska to send mental patients. They were going to lessen the commitment laws. You could basically get into an argument with somebody and be sent up there. This sounds very odd. Nobody's ever heard about it. That's in no small part thanks to the Church of Scientology. I must say, though, when that bill was killed in Congress, the war was on with psychiatry, where they declared war on us. And I want you to understand something.
Let me just ask you to be specific on that. You were talking about a bill having been brought into Congress for the setting aside of 1 million acres in Alaska.
You got it.
for people...
Send mental health patients.
Mental health patients. Who was the sponsor of that bill? What was the bill number? I mean, I'm sure we're going to...
Well, I have a copy of it, and if you want it, I can give it to you. All of these documents were made available to Forrest. If they're not on here, I don't know why, but I do have them, and I will make it available to you.
Was that bill ever voted on? Did it ever come out of committee?
Oh, yes. It was a major flap for the psychiatrists when it got voted down.